Now I'm going to talk about a new campaign that CCIA has rolled out. It's called Retention Matters. Here to chat about it is Paul Laronde, who is the Tag and Technology Manager with CCIA, as well as the past chair of the organization, Lyle Miller. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Awesome.
Great.
Good.
Yeah, great to chat with you guys. So, Lyle, let's start with you. I guess why the Retention Matters campaign?
Well, we had an open house, I believe it was in 2023 with the CBIC event that was happening in Calgary. And as part of that campaign, we had uh, a couple busload of people come to the CCIA location here in Calgary. And one of the biggest peaks of interest was actually the the information that Paul was sharing regarding tags and proper placement and proper placement and proper applicators and indicators and stuff like that to go with. There's so that's what kind of kicked it off as far as us realizing that after 20, nearly 25 years, that there was still lots of questions being going around the table about whether the indicators were getting put in properly and with the proper equipment. So from that we kicked it off. We kicked off
Yeah.
the need to try and keep the tags in if we're putting them in. The just a reminder to the users of what it takes to try and keep those tags in the ears.
So, Paul, let's talk about this. How do we keep more tags in the ears? What are some of the things we need to consider from your standpoint?
Well, we have a list of what are called best practices. So, starting sort of at the beginning, we need to make sure that when you're putting a tag in an animal, that it's properly restrained. You don't need its head waving all over the place. You want to be able to focus on the ear and where you're going to put that tag. You got to make sure that you're using the correct applicator device for the tag that you're using. So they're all different. Every manufacturer sells their own applicator. So we have to ensure that the one you're using is proper for the tag, or you're going to have tag losses. We need to follow the manufacturer's directions when we're putting tags in. I've met folks who have put been putting tags in for 15, 20 years, and they've been doing it wrong.
Oh,
So, it's there may be subtle differences from tag to tag, manufacturer to manufacturer. So just, look at the back of the package, make sure that you're following those specific instructions. We want to make sure that the applicators and the tags are clean and free of debris. So, not the ones that have been, laying on the ground for a while or whatever. Like, make sure that they're clean and sanitary, because we're putting a hole in the ear. We want it to heal up properly. If possible, and this is best practice, but it's not always possible, but applying an antiseptic to the tags and the applicators before they go in. So some folks have a bucket with some antiseptic in it. They just dip the applicator with the tags on it before they go in, and they put it on, and there's just enough antiseptic on there to help cut down on bacteria that may cause infections. And again, best practice, if you can, wipe off both sides of the ear with some sort of antiseptic solution. And, there's going to be folks in the business snickering at that, but I'm just trying to talk about what's, the absolute best way to ensure that tags are going to stay in there. Oftentimes, handling animals, by the time they get up to the chute, they're covered in quote unquote debris. So if there's a lot of debris on the ear, there's no sense in just poking a tag, into the ear. Like, at least, clean it off, or look at the other ear. But you're just begging for problems if you go forward with that. And although it's tempting, sometimes we lose a tag and there's a pre-made hole there. It's tempting just to like line that stud up and just snap that tag in the old hole, but that's not recommended. So the healing of the hole, so once the pin goes through the hole, there's a little wound there, and part of that healing process helps keep that tag in place. A lot of times with that pre-made hole, it's already been healed. You put that stud in, and what happens after a while is, because there's no healing process, the hole will start to elongate and get larger, and then the tag will fall out. So it looks like we're going to do that, but it looks like that's the best way to do it, but it's not. And the last piece is when using, plastic tags with the male female portion, make sure the male portion's at the back of the ear. So it's the flattest part. It's going to lay flat against the ear. I run into folks sometimes who get frustrated with retention. They'll turn that around, or they'll put the female portion on top, and you end up with this big bulky thing sticking off the top. And if you're using a bale feeder and the animal's putting its head in there all the time, it's going to cause problems. So that's part of the manufacturer's instructions, but it's common sense. But like I said, sometimes people get frustrated and they just want to try something else. So the one sort of exception to that is we also have a stainless steel tag. And it's applied differently. So it's applied to the top of the ear, the flat portions on the top. Again, it's in the manufacturer's instructions on how to do that, but generally plastic tags, the male part goes in the back. So those are sort of the top 10 best practice tips for successful tagging.
Okay, so I like that top 10 tips. So Lyle, as you know, you've been involved with CCIA for a number of years. You ranch around the Acme area. Is that practical? What Paul's talking about, and how have you been able to use those 10 things that he talked about there and bring them to in the actual practicality and fruition on the farm?
Yeah, I can't remember the 10 off the top. It'll be just all said, but I can say that I'm like everybody else probably. I snickered at the disinfectant one, but probably a couple that kind of resonate with me real quick is, whenever I've been to brandings, it seems like there's always, family and kids and sometimes neighbors that maybe haven't been part of a branding before, and the job that we always give them, because it's dangerous to carry around a needle with vaccines, and it's dangerous to carry a scalpel and branding irons, but a tagger, it's not that dangerous to carry a tagger around. So we always give the newest person to the branding a CCIA tagger and say, please apply these tags. And by the way, we don't read the manufacturer's recommendations in the box when we open it. We just give them the tagger and say, here you go. And we hope the job gets done properly. So that's probably, a big one to me, is making sure that people have the right training to put the applicators in properly at a job like that.
Yeah.
The rest of the ones that that Paul mentioned, the proper applicator. We had, I've been on the board for years and years and years, and I found out at our own feed yard that we were using the wrong applicator to put the tag in, and I'm somebody that should know different. So it makes me wonder how many other people don't have the information if I didn't even have the information. So that's two of, I guess, Paul's 10 that I could mention that hit home with me when we were going through this campaign.
And that training to apply the tag properly, we're not talking about like a half-day course. We're just, make sure you run through the proper steps with that person, and then you're probably good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Right placement, where the button goes versus where does the indicator go. Top side, back side, middle third, where should that tag be? Paul even brought one up when we were filming for the Retention Matters campaign, that with those stainless steel tags, that they needed to go in perpendicular to the ear so that they were in their square, to maintain the right gap control that those tags needed with the applicators. So there's a lot more to it than just putting the tag in, and I would say I did see value in reading what's in the box of the tags. And, we've been putting these indicators in since they came out. And when we read the packaging, I would say I did learn something.
So I guess the question is then, some people may be listening and watching this and being like, okay, so what? Like, so if my retention isn't great, what are the consequences, costs, ramifications? Like, I guess give us the other side of it here. Like, why do we care about this, Paul?
Well, if that animal's going to leave your herd, it's going to go to a different farm or a different facility. By law, by regulation, it needs to have an approved tag on it. And if you don't put it in properly when the animal is tractable and young, and you're around the equipment to do it, when it's getting, to be a larger animal and going to go on a truck, now you still got to put a tag in it. So, the risk of getting injured, it goes up. The risk of injuring the animal goes up because you're trying to get this tag on as the animal's wandering up the ramp onto the truck. So, with respect to traceability, there's three pillars in traceability. One is the ID of the animal, one is the premises ID of the farm, and one is the time date of that location when that animal moves. So if you lose that tag, it's sort of like the license plate on the animal. Everything's linked to that in our database, and you lose the license plate, you've lost any information that you've attached to that. And if you lose that tag because it's put in poorly, and you put in a new one, it's sort of starting fresh unless you know the number of the last one, and you can call us and say, can you link those two tags together? So putting it in properly the first time, even if it doesn't save you a bit of time, it's going to save the next guy time and effort and hassle in putting in another tag. So it's important. Do it right the first time. Get it done and move forward.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, I appreciate both of you joining us here today, talking about this Retention Matters campaign. All the best to you in the campaign. And if somebody wants more information on the campaign and your list of 10 tips there, Paul, where do they go?
They can call our office at CCIA, so 1-877-909-BEEF. And we have customer service folks that answer the phone who are knowledgeable. And if they don't know the answer, they can get it for that person. So that's your first call out to us as to the campaign, and if they want sort of a refresher on these practical points, that's sort of the first place to call.
Great stuff. Well, hey, Lyle, really appreciate you joining us here today, and all the best to you this 2025 season.
Yes, thank you.
And Paul, and Paul, thanks for the insight. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Anytime.